Michael Fulwani, your immigration lawyer, and welcome to our program on immigration and you. Once again today we have with us the attorney David Nachman, my partner. David, welcome.
Thanks so much, Michael. Always a pleasure.
So today's program is something that is really not a very happy information. For many years, actually, we have been talking about comprehensive immigration reform bill. And there were millions, 12 million people almost are illegally in, and we have been giving them the hope. We have been telling them that President Obama made a campaign promise, this is going to happen, and please just stay put. It's a matter of time, it's a matter of time. But looks like that it probably is not going to happen in a very near future. Now, if you recall, the Senate did pass the bill, and bill was supposed to go to the House. And if the House would have voted on that, then comprehensive immigration reform would have passed.
And that was about a year ago.
About a year
that
ago.
Happened, yeah.
Yeah, well, more than a year ago. But I mean, basically, almost 2 years, close to a year and a half.
S744.
Yeah.
S744, yeah.
So now I'm saying that, yes, Democrats supported it. President Obama wanted campaign. But the policy of Obama, I'm not blaming necessary, but what happened, what developed, President Obama was going in a direction, like a left hand and a right hand here. Sometimes he will try the right hand, sometimes the left hand, all with a view to convince the Republicans that he is enforcing the laws. He is doing the right thing. He is going to control the borders. And therefore, they should support the passage of the CIR. Because Republicans have always said, first, you control the borders. We're not going to support you unless you show us that you have controlled the borders. But it's not happening. It was not happening. You and me probably knew more. We were saying we don't believe that the Republicans, whatever he's doing, concessions, adjustments and all that, they are not going to support the bill. And certain other things happen politically, you know, the Iraq situation, Syria situation, Benghazi situation,
yeah.
And they kept on blaming him for everything. Now,
yeah.
The millions of illegal children coming in, and they say, you are just now, on one hand you are saying you are controlling the borders, on the other hand, in a way you are welcoming children from some of the South American countries to come in.
Right.
So with all this happening, the Speaker of the House, Bonner, clearly said last week, no comprehensive immigration reform bill, period. And there are some congressmen says this will never happen until President Obama is here. So we are looking at 2017. Now when this happened, David, Obama woke up, I think. And this is the news 3 days ago. We are in today's program. I'm talking about today here, but when you are looking at things that happened 3 days ago, President Obama now woke up and says, no, if that is the case, I am going to administratively take care of whatever I can do without going to the Congress. So that's
right.
And one of the things they said, we have this copy of the article, both David and me went through and discussed before coming here, is that one of the things he's saying that we should give legal status and work permission like we did to the DREAM student, to the 12 million. The only issue is that the Republicans, conservative are saying, okay, if you are going to do that, we are going to go to the court, we are going to challenge it, this is not constitutional. So we have to take that into consideration in the equation to see ultimately what may happen. It's your turn now to say what you can say about this development.
Well, I think that, Michael, looking at the history of what we call prosecutorial discretion is very interesting because what it does is it helps us to understand where maybe this whole thing is going to go. As you rightfully point out, that the president has the ability to exercise his administrative powers. Many people don't really understand where that's from. So let me just take a step backward and try to explain. It goes back many, many years ago to a couple of memoranda. One was issued by Julie Myers, who was in charge of the Immigration and Customs Enforcement Office. And in that memorandum, which was put forth, although it wasn't law, it was a memorandum that was generally followed by all of the administrative agencies, there was a discussion about prosecutorial discretion. We refer to it affectionately as PD. PD can be requested by immigration lawyers at many different levels. It can be requested before an immigration judge. It can be requested for administrative agencies. It can be requested at the border, and so on, all the way down. So prosecutorial discretion is a nice tool that we've had in our toolbox, that we use for our clients for many, many years. What happened was prosecutorial discretion then evolved into what we call the DACA program, where it was clear that prosecutorial discretion would apply to the individuals who met the parameters of DACA, individuals who entered the United States with their parents before they were turned age 16, and then they met these other criteria. More recently, there was an additional memorandum about what's called PIP, parole in place. Parole in place was for individuals who had military personnel or veterans in the family, and they were allowed to stay and to actually be paroled in place, which meant that if you are a member of your family, have someone in the military, you're able to apply for parole in place. It's an informal application that's made at the district offices. Once you have parole, then you can apply to adjust your status in the United States if you have an independent classification that allows you to do that. So it's a very powerful tool. And again, these were not anything Congress did. These are not anything that that was regulatory. These were what's called PD, prosecutorial discretion. So then,
they went too far.
So then, so then what happens is the next step is, what can the president do now? What is the next step that the president can logically take using prosecutorial discretion? Because again, it's not a presidential order. It's not something Congress can do. It's not something that can be challenged. So it's a very, very strong tool that the president has.
And I have two questions to ask you.
Yeah, and of course we're encouraging the president to utilize his strength, and even at this point in time, if he's not utilizing his strength outwardly, if he at least says, I am thinking about it, he's exercising control and saying to Congress, look guys, get your act, and ladies, get your act together, figure it out, because if you don't, I'm going to take action. And that ability to get that control and to exercise that direction for Congress may push them in the right direction.
So you answer my one question is, you think this approach of President Obama may push Republicans to bring the CIR on the floor of the House so that they don't let those administrative things happen. But
that's correct. I think that it's a political action.
I want to also give a message to our people here, the viewers. I think it is not a bad idea, it's a good idea if all of you, start sending letters to White House to President, thanking them and appreciating that his efforts to grant administrative reliefs. So this way you'll see the hundreds of thousands of people are supporting him on that, will make him more confident to go ahead and do that. The other question I have, assuming that he does that, a lot of whatever he can do, DREAM Act kind of thing, extensions, and he can do the same kind of program for
DACA,
all the illegal
PIP,
aliens.
yeah.
The question here is, what happens in 2017 if the Congress doesn't pass any law, and these administratively can also be taken away administratively?
Oh, you're saying, I see. So Michael, your question is, when the president is gone because his term is up, then what happens? That's a great question.
These Republicans are in power, both Senate, President, everything. Can they redo or undo these changes?
Right. Well, that's a very good question, Michael, and actually it goes back to the considerations that we actually spoke about when we were talking about DACA and going into, you'll recall that DACA was passed in the fourth year of President Obama's first term. So there was a big question as to whether or not he was really going to be the president into that second term, or whether the Republican candidate was going to be elected. So a lot of people didn't apply for DACA. But what's interesting is even after President Obama did get elected, then they still trickled in. There weren't a lot of, there wasn't like an onslaught of applications in the DACA area. I mean, my opinion is that, again, politically, what ends up happening is that if a Republican comes in after Obama and he makes an administrative ruling and people have that status, how do you take it away? It's like it's like being consumed with a tidal wave, and then all of a sudden trying to figure out a way to pump it all the water out of the boat. It's not going to happen. And if it did happen, I think politically it would be doomsday for the Republican Party if they came into power, and had the presidency, because you're taking away something that people have come to rely upon, and that's a very, very difficult political position to take. It's going to make a lot of people very, very unhappy.
Yeah, and other thing is that, assuming this happens, there is a likelihood that the Republicans may go to the court challenging the constitutionality of these decisions. They may say, President does not have that authority to bypass completely the Congress.
Right.
So this thing, like a CSPA thing that happened, there are a couple of other cases recently we have seen.
Well, remember, Michael, that it's not really the president that's being challenged. It's an administrative act. So the agency would have to be challenged. So what it is that an action would have to be brought against the agency. Right. So there would have to be something brought against the agencies, some kind of a restraining order. And I think that, again, from a judicial point of view, it's a mess. It's an absolute mess, which is why I think he's using that particular methodology to get control over the process. So that's
the DACA again was limited to a smaller group of people.
That's right.
It's not 12 million. Like, he's giving legal status to 12 million people, which is not normally something that a Congress should be passing the law or taking care of that. So in that deferred or a parole kind of situation, which was meant in the law for a very small number of exceptional cases, not granting in large 12 million people the legal status. So there's a possibility. For example, Obama, there was a recess in the Congress period, and the law says that the president has the authority to nominate some other executives, who generally require permission or approval of the Senate.
Okay.
But he went ahead and he made some appointments. So now they have challenged that. They're going to the court and challenging. Now they actually decided, I think, if I'm not mistaken, the Supreme Court probably is saying that those appointments were not constitutional, something like that. Either it's going to happen or talk about it, or it has happened. So this is the way, and we are concerned a little bit that if this happens, there may also be challenges in the court. Supreme Court may make determination otherwise. There may be some other changes. But if it happens, the advice that you and me can give to the people, don't just sit back and say, okay, now I got the card and I'm done. Because you have to think of the future. If there are other options available after getting even a legal status, permission to work and stay legally, don't just go to sleep. Look at marriage could be an option, employment could be an option, sponsorship could be an option. There are other options that you should continue,
right,
and not just go to sleep and believe that this.
Of course. Well, it's the same thing, Michael, that we're seeing now with, for example, DACA. In other words, the DACIans have their work authorization. They're in the United States. They're allowed to stay. So what we're doing is we're looking at this case called Arabelli,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And what we're doing is we're getting them parole documents, sending them outside the United States, bringing them back in. Once they've been paroled back into the United States, then they can apply for adjustment of status because they have status in the United States as parolees, similar to people who are paroled, PIP, parole in place. Once the individual has parole in place, then of course the individual can adjust status. And there's also a very interesting case in the Ninth Circuit right now where there was a holding that an individual who has TPS has made a proper entry and can apply for adjustment of status. So that's, right now that's only in the Ninth Circuit, but it's interesting to see how that might evolve into a nationwide holding. So we have our eyes closely on that particular case.
I had recently a couple of people who talked to me, and I said this is an option. However, you should very clearly look at that option to see what is in your background, and whether you can use that advance parole and come in, or there may be some problem in your background, immigration background, there may be crime.
Admissibility issues, right?
Disability
of course.
So it's very important. It's a good option, But not just to blindly do that and take it, and then you get stuck and can't come back, and they say, Mr. David Nachman told me, Michael Fulwani told me, just do that, and right?
No, we examined it thoroughly, yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So we're running out of time, but I think that we want to maybe let our viewers know that next week we'll be discussing some interesting issues.
A lot of interesting information. As you can see that every week when we come in, we give you the most latest and most important information that you have been waiting the whole week for us to tell you. So make sure to you watch us, keep watching us every Saturday and Sunday only on ITV. We thank you very much, Mr. Nachman.
Thanks so much.
And thank all of you for watching the program. And goodbye.